How's it going, dudes? So you aren't real. I know it might be tough to hear, but if you really look at yourself, you do not exist. And that stinks, because due to that whole non-existent thing, you'll never be able to enjoy the simple pleasures of life. Stuff like buying car insurance, or stumbling across $240,000 worth of uranium. If only there was something we could play to help you simulate this normal, everyday life. Oh! The game of life. Spin the spinner, go to college, and immediately lose $500 gambling. To a T. The game of life is one of the all-time classic board games. Millions of players all over the world, completely ridiculous sales figures, and it was even inducted into the Toy Hall of Fame in 2010. For reference, that is 3 years before chess made it in, so that should tell you everything you need to know about how good it is. But forget about the top-tier gameplay and the ludicrously deep mechanics on offer here, because we only really care about one thing: money. This thing be making it, so you know we're gonna be milking it. How? Just like the other classic titles, when you've been around for this long, you're gonna have updates, tie-ins, and revamps out the wazoo. And I've trudged through it all to bring you back a hand-selected collection of the worst and weirdest of the game of life. There's no better place to start a journey than the beginning, so of course we'll be starting off with the very first game in the series. The one from 1860. The Checkered Game of Life, the very first game ever made by Milton Bradley himself and coming out 1 year prior to the start of the Civil War. You won't find a bigger hater of the game of life out there than the Confederate States of America. The Checkered Game of Life carries a completely different look to the version that we are all used to, but does have some similar quirks. Since dice at the time were seen as vices and sinful due to their close proximity to gambling, this game had you spin the numbered top in order to move, which would obviously go on to become the beloved spinner. This decision has managed to keep kids away from the temptation of gambling for over a century, as instead of having to use those rotten dice, the children of today get by instead with the ever-virtuous roulette wheel. The aim of this game is to collect points by living a moral and successful life, gaining score by having traits like honor, happiness, college, and wealth while avoiding pitfalls along the way. Happy old age is worth a big ol' 50 spot, and the first person to 100 points wins. Now, you might look at this board with the various pointing fingers and lack of any cohesion and wonder, how in the world do I play this? Well, lucky for you, the gameplay is quite intuitive. You start the game off in infancy and spin the top, otherwise known as the teetotum, not calling it that, to move. On a 1, you can move 1 space up or down. On a 2, you can move 1 space right or left. On a 3, you can move 1 space diagonally. On a 4, you can move up to 2 spaces up or down. On a 5, you can move up to 2 spaces right or left. And on a 6, you can move up to 2 spaces diagonally in a straight line. Simple. If a player lands on another piece, he will send that piece to jail, and the game continues on until somebody reaches 100 points in any order, or they are the last one standing. Yes, there is a way to be knocked out of the game entirely if you land on a specific space. Which one of these is that? I can't... Oh, there it is! Gotta hand it to old Milton. He is quite the innovator. The title had some pretty solid success for selling a board game in 1860, but when the world needed it most, the Checkered Game of Life vanished. 100 years passed, and 2 people would get the idea to collaborate with the Milton Bradley Company to bring out a successor to the original. The newly copyrighted The Game of Life. Fans waited 100 years for a follow-up, and all they got was a reboot. If they were alive, they'd be furious. The Game of Life 1960 was the first true Game of Life game. One-way path, college or career, 3D elements, insurance stock, cars, pegs, and of course, the iconic spinner. Whew! It don't get much better than that. With this being the very first Game of Life game, it has some noticeable differences as they had yet to work out all of the kinks. The payday spaces are red, the share the wealth cards begin their on-again, off-again relationship with the series, and there are no house or career cards to choose from. You just get either a standard career out of the gate or a random college career after you pay your $1,500 tuition. That hurt someone. I know that hurt at least one of you. Of course, you have your standard off-the-wall spaces, like finding a circus elephant being the literal first thing you do in life, or the ever-popular find uranium deposit. But this also features the first revenge space of the series, where landing here allows you to either move someone back 10 spaces or steal $100,000 from them. Mildly inconvenience someone. Economic devastation. At the end of the game, you have two options to take based on how much money you have. If you think you have enough to win, you can go to Millionaire Acres and wait until everyone else finishes. If you don't think you have enough though, you can try one last-ditch effort to become a millionaire tycoon. Step right up and win a prize. Put everything that you own on one of these numbers and spin the spinner. If you get it wrong, you lose everything and live out the rest of your days in shame at the poor farm. If you get it right, you immediately win the game. Nobody else gets to try later either. The game is just over. This is such a stupid mechanic. Hey, I know we're invested in this Monopoly game and all, but I just rolled 3 doubles in a row, so the game is over. I won. That's how you get somebody killed. The game was successful enough on its original run to continue production, and in 1978, it was formally reworked into this much more recognizable structure. Aw, now we're in it, baby. This is the game of life. While this game looks a lot different, the changes are mostly visual. Revenge spaces are now gold and have you sue for damages. The poor farm has been replaced with you just retiring to the country to become a philosopher, yeah, the Diogenes kind, and the buildings now need to be added to the board by using the included slits. Oh yeah, I forgot to mention that in the original, the buildings and spinner are built into the board, so when you put this thing up, you have to fold it and put it into the box like this. Spaces of interest include the first thing you do in life being capturing an escaped lion, your uncle leaving you a skunk farm that you have to get rid of, and the ever-popular discover uranium. But no other space in the game carries as much weight to it as the defining feature of this version: help homeless children, give $120,000 to orphanage. I've warned you all before, and I'm warning you again. Never trust an orphan. The orphans occupy a red space, meaning that you have to do it even when you pass. You cannot get around this charge. And as you leave, they'll smile, they'll wave, and you'll feel good about your, albeit forced, good deed. You keep walking down the path until you hit, bridge out ahead. Go back 15 spaces. That puts you all the way back here at Buy a Yacht, sending you right back into the clutches of, can you believe it, the orphans. Time to pay up, chuckle nuts. Thank you so much for your donation. These children are professional extortionists. We have not played a game of this without somebody getting hit by the orphan loop, on most occasions multiple times. One of my friends got hit 4 times in the span of one game. She donated $480,000 to those fiends. After over a decade of this serving as the game of life standard, and with the Milton Bradley Company now firmly under the control of Hasbro, a new version of the game was deemed necessary to make more money, which led to the creation of the Game of Life 1991. This would be the first modern Game of Life game, introducing a lot of the core features you would expect from the series going forward. Selectable careers, varying salaries, buyable houses, green payday spaces, and one of the biggest ones, the life tiles. Returning a bit to that original vision of living a moral life, whenever you do a good thing, like making new friends, adopting a pet, or saying no to drugs, you get a life tile that will be worth a random amount of money at the end of the game. Some careers are locked behind a degree, and some of them also come with special powers, like the policeman who will give you a speeding ticket if you spin a 10. Of course, with all of the changes, some things did need to get left behind. The Share the Wealth cards have been removed, you can no longer sue for damages, most of the gambling portions have been taken out, you can no longer become a millionaire tycoon, and worst of all, you can no longer discover uranium. They ruined it! Hasbro does make it a cool 14 years before they give in to their addiction and release another new version, The Game of Life 2005, featuring everyone's favorite lifetime achievement, vote! Remember kids, if you don't vote, you don't get your life tile. 2005 is to 1991 what 78 was to 1960. A slightly upgraded version of the previous title with some of the kinks ironed out. The components look better, the text is more legible, and some adjustments were made to the balance so that it was less reliant on luck. Oh, so this is why it got in before chess. Additionally, each job now comes with their own unique power that represents what they do. This can be as simple as getting paid when a number is spun, to taking the yellow salary card if you hit your big break, to what could be the most broken one depending on who you are playing with, the computer consultant. If at any point the spinner either stops between numbers or comes off of the track, you collect $50,000. This one is great because kids always try to spin this thing as hard as possible without having good hand-eye coordination. So either they'll learn quickly to chill out with the spins, or you're gonna be running away with the game. Gotta give it up for Hasbro for inventing an anti-annoying kid mechanic, some of their best work. After another couple years of 05 action, Hasbro once again decided to shake things up with The Game of Life 2013. Let's check in on the changes here. Looks like the spin to win tracker is back, so that's a cool touch. This version officially adds the roulette wheel features to the spinner. Excellent, we can get them started early. And it looks like we've removed all of the text from the effect spaces. Great. Wasn't using that anyway. This is the new standout feature of the title, where instead of printing out all of the effects on the spaces themselves, they've just made the yellow squares action spaces and have players draw a card when they land there. This does give the game more replayability since the effects can now happen in any order, with the only side effect being the complete and total loss of any and all swagger. The effects used to be listed on the board in a way that reflected what part of your life you were in. In college, it's mostly school stuff. After you get married in a house, you start having kids. Once you get older, you can start getting more expensive things. It gave you that feel that you were getting older, that you were playing a game of life. Also, I can't explain it, but the board just looks wimpy? Look at this guy. If you're gonna play him, you have to play by his rules. He's the one in charge here. Him? Could you pretty please draw a card? This Game of Life would shove this Game of Life into a locker. But that's mainly just how it looks. What are some of the new mechanics? Well, the life tiles have been completely removed. Awesome, that's not a great start. You can actually own multiple homes in this version, a change that I really like because it allows you to go for that Joel Harden real estate mogul type play. Unfortunately, now you can no longer buy a house unless you land on one of these housing spaces. So if you did have the money to play this way but didn't get lucky with your spins, then too bad, buddy, you don't even get a house. You can go through the whole game and never get the opportunity. At least in the last one, you got 2 tries guaranteed. The career cards have ditched the unique power for each job and instead just gave everyone the most boring option. And finally, the worst part of this one by far, the action cards themselves. The effects are fine, and I like how they try to get the spinner involved more often, but for some stupid freaking reason, they decided that every action card can now be kept and turned in at the end of the game for $100,000 each. This is a terrible idea because now every single action card in the game is just gain money, Get a tax refund? Here's a little bit extra. Lose a wheel spinner challenge? That's okay, you made more than they did. Classic Game of Life ridiculous expenditure? No, actually, this card is now gain $50,000. What is this company's problem? 2000s Hasbro always took these classic titles and changed them in a unique way that brings in cool new styles or concepts while still keeping the air of the original. And then the 2010s hit and they F everything up to an unimaginable degree. What happened to this company in 2010? Did the entire staff get raptured? Needing to course correct after a disappointing 2010s launch, aka The Standard, Hasbro released The Game of Life 2017. You know, I was so mad about the action card fiasco that I didn't even notice they removed the 3D board elements until I saw the new spinner. That's probably a big reason as to why these boards look like such wimps. They've got no elevation. The big change in this version is the addition of a much requested family member in the series, pets. Represented by the green pegs, the pets come in both a custom dog and cat style, and pet spaces are added to the board that allow you to draw from the pet deck, which act as either standard action cards or could net you another pet peg. Unfortunately, besides the spinner holder, this was the only change made to the game. You still need to land on a house space to buy one, the career powers are all still the same, and the action cards are still always a net positive. You are literally never punished. Also, why at the end of the game do you get double for each pet than you get for each kid? I thought the whole thing with the kids was once you got old, they support you like you supported them. What job did your pet get to give you $100,000? Win Dixie is out here walking the kids and he's getting a yellow salary card for it. What a hustler. Our most recent version to be released is The Game of Life 2021. And seeing as they've put a hipster peg right on the front, I have the lowest expectations for this one by far. However, I am pleasantly surprised. This one has managed to fix a bunch of the problems from the last two and added some new cool stuff as well. Firstly, you can no longer trade in action cards for 100k at the end of the game. It only took us 8 years. Jobs no longer all carry the same power, instead coming with a bonus salary that you'll get if you land on payday. Pets make a return alongside the new friends, but since you can pick any color peg to represent any person, pet, or thing, I recommend color coding them so you don't mistake your wife for your dog. And the different paths that you can take from the stop spaces have changed things enough that I actually feel like mentioning them despite them being in the last two versions as well. For the stop spaces, you can now choose to get married and grow your family or continue on your regular life, needing to spend 50k to buy a wife and child respectively, and then continuing down that exclusive path. On midlife spinout, you have to spin to determine whether you have a midlife crisis. That one's not up to you. And at the end, you can retire early in case you want to either get this game over with or flex on everyone by winning anyway. I wouldn't call this one as good in total as the originals or the remasters, but it is leagues better than the 2010 lineup. Those things are just awful. But why play a game where you know what to expect when you could be changing the game with today's sponsor, Dropout? Yes, the people behind the hit show Game Changer have decided to take all of that chaos and smash it into something you can play too, with Game Changer Home Edition. Game Changer Home Edition has you and your friends team up to take on various challenges ripped straight from the show, including Bingo, Name a Number, and of course, Sam Says. Sam Says is, as you can imagine, a hilarious mess, but personally, I'm a big fan of Name a Number as it forces you to try to bid on how well you'll do on an action before you even know what the action is. You will be blindsiding your friends at pretty much every opportunity, and if you know me, that's literally my favorite thing to do to them. Sam Says the Kickstarter for Game Changer Home Edition is live now, so click that link below and prepare yourself for a real Game Changer Home Edition. Thank you to Dropout for sponsoring this video. Now let's get back to seeing what whack crap is in store for us today. Of course, you don't have to stick to boring old regular life when choosing to play, as there are a whole host of different themed editions of the title that you can use to spice up your life. Because, I mean, yeah, you could live out your days alongside your loving family and junk, or Mike and Sully from Monsters, Inc. New at 11, the absent father epidemic has tripled. The game of life in Monstropolis. Pick your car and go through your monstrous life. A lot of the themed editions are basically going to be the standard game with new paint and a few new mechanics, and that's no exception here. Cuts back on a bunch of the specialized game of life mechanics like insurance and stocks, and instead has raffles and expenses to make it easier for younger kids. Interesting, as on the board it depicts Mike and Sully graduating from college when it is widely known that they were expelled from Monsters University due to their tech lab vandalization scandal. Cannot believe they didn't consult the prequel that came out 12 years later. My immersion is shattered. Also following this simple style is the Game of Life SpongeBob SquarePants Edition, a version that I actually did play a bunch of when I was younger, so I can confirm that this style of life gets exponentially less fun with every year you're alive. Credit where it's due though, the detail on these buildings and the quality of the SpongeBob character pawns, unmatched. They absolutely killed it here. But forget the new mechanics, what if you just wanted that same old life but with a new paint job to make you feel something? Well, we've got plenty of options for you there too, including the Game of Life The Simpsons, the Game of Life Family Guy, the Game of Life The Wizard of Oz, the Game of Life The Haunted Mansion, the Disney Theme Park Edition, which is a version specifically based around the various Haunted Mansion locations found at the different Disney parks. Stay tuned for their next release, the Game of Life Waiting an Hour for the Country Bear Jamboree Edition, the Game of Life Rockstar Edition, the Game of Life 50th Anniversary Special Edition complete with Gold Spinner, the Game of Life It's a Dog's Life Edition where you can play as your own dog, and the Game of Life Disney Parks Theme Park Edition, featuring, as I mentioned earlier, the Country Bear Jamboree. In case you're wondering, they did replace the money in this one with wishes to preserve that Disney magic, and in true Disney fashion, you absolutely can take out a loan on wishes. Of course, we can't forget about the international audience, and with the Game of Life being a surprisingly huge hit in the nation of Japan, there have been a few releases that were Japanese exclusives, such as the Game of Life Pokemon Japan and the Game of Life Hello Kitty Japan, the latter of which only running you over $300 for the privilege to play. I'd love to tell you what's going on in here further, but if you've ever watched this channel before, you'll know that I can barely read English, let alone Japanese. Back on the Disney bandwagon, we hit up the Game of Life Pirates of the Caribbean, which I've included in here for two interesting reasons. For one, instead of houses, you will be buying ships, and you are incentivized to buy the more expensive ships not for resale value, but because of how they'll help you kill the other players. Landing on a raid space will allow you to attack another player, where you add your ship's combat rating to a spin on the spinner to see who gets the higher number. You win, you steal money, you lose, nothing happens. A very simple ordeal, but still pretty cool, as I believe this to be the first Game of Life game to feature outright physical violence against another player. Thanks, Disney! And two, this is yet another Disney theme parks Game of Life game. As despite Curse of the Black Pearl coming out 1 year earlier, they decided to not tie this in at all to the movies and instead just based it entirely on the ride. Pirates fans would get that recognizable cast in the next two games that were based on the movies, but for this first one here, nope, sorry bud, you get Abu the monkey from Aladdin. The Game of Life Amazon Original, The Marvelous Mrs. Maisel Edition, which has got to be one of the weirder television tie-ins I've seen. The Game of Life My Little Pony, which has you spin the wheel on story cards to see if you succeed or fail at a certain friendship task. Don't ever speak to me again. The Game of Life Barbie, which does not use money, we use dream points. Yes, you spend them like money and you earn them like money and they are shaped like money, but they aren't money, they're dreams in bill form. And the Game of Life Extreme Reality, which has a similar story mechanic to the My Little Pony one with one major difference. All of the story cards feature actual events that happened to real-world people. such as buying a ring at a junk sale and finding out that all the diamonds are real, or making big money from a funny clip of you going viral. Now, this is a very trust me bro moment, as Hasbro doesn't provide any sources for the stories they are telling, but on the extreme reality cards, they do add a first name and a country to the bottom, and are you calling Toby UK a liar? That will be the end of the themed edition group, because I'm ready to get to the ones that really shook things up. A new coat of paint is nice and all, but it can't quite match up to the sheer potential on offer from a poorly thought out revamp. I'm only qualifying games as revamped editions here if they have made a concerted effort to do something really different. Adding a Disney ride isn't gonna cut it anymore. I wanna see some innovation. I'll be doing these in order based on what game they are based off, hopefully so that we can spend a little bit of time not drowning in action cards. To start us off right, we have The Game of Life Star Wars: A Jedi's Path, the 2002 game that replaces most of the onboard text with lesson cards. Ah, come on! They'd been plotting this for years. I should have known! A Jedi's Path sees players attempt to undergo their Jedi training in order to become the best Jedi Master. Along the way, you will take on lessons and missions that will help you improve your skills, logic, intuition, fighting, and energy. The first Jedi to the end gains big bonuses to their skill total, but if you'd like, you can take shortcuts through the dark side and risk becoming a Sith Lord, rerouting to your new destination. This one is cool because 1, Star Wars, and 2, there is a lot of opportunity cost here with trying to raise your skill totals. Do you try to maximize one skill to become the best at it, or do you spread them out evenly so that you are ready for anything? Do you take the longer training path at the start so that you can level up your skills early, or do you take the short path to try to rush to the end for the huge skill boost? Do you take that Sith shortcut to regain the lead, or continue on the Jedi path and hope for more bonuses? There are a lot of choices that you'll have to make, and they're all going to revolve around what your opponents are doing, especially since you might have to fight them later on. The ending can be pretty simple. If all characters are Jedi or all characters are Sith, then the one with the highest skill total wins. But if there are some on each side of the aisle, then things do get interesting. The strongest Jedi and Sith players step forward and begin their duel of the fates, with the Sith player choosing which 3 of the 4 skills they will be dueling with. The Sith has the advantage in overall power and getting to choose their best 3 skills, but if the Jedi player manages to win even one of the 3 battles, they exploit that weakness and win the duel. Honestly, sounds like a very compelling back and forth. This is probably the most strategic a Game of Life game is ever gonna get. But forget all of that thinking. Let's get vapid with the Game of Life Fame Edition. This one sees you attempt to build up your money and entourage as you try to collect stars that will increase your fame and salary. The first person to collect 5 stars and reach the end becomes a megastar. What is interesting about this Game of Life game is a little bit how they shake up the gameplay, but mostly it's what they do with the Pentagon board. See, this board is actually double-sided with a yellow side and a red side. And once one player completes a lap around the board, the next open section of the board is flipped to that red carpet side, changing what spaces are available from then on out. I also like how the cars are now massive limos and you are required by the rules to sit in the back so that your driver can drive you around. Because what am I gonna do? Drive myself? Where do I live? The poor farm? Neat little idea with a fun little gimmick. Next, the Game of Life Twists and Turns. TGOL TNT sees you try to accumulate the most happiness, a combination of money and life points that the game does not elaborate on. Heck, you're not even the one tallying the final score, as you'll see later. To earn this happiness that I've heard so much about, you will move around the various life paths, building your life as you want to live it, and entering everything you do into the proprietary electronic life pod. At the end of the game, the life pod will take your entire existence and break it down into a scoreable numeric value, and the person who lived the best life wins. While the board's wibbly-wobbly path might catch your eye first, it is the life pod that is the real star of the show, as everything is going to revolve around this machine at all times of the game. Tracking all of the data based on whichever player's credit card is inside, every time you gain money, lose money, buy a house, sell a house, buy a car, sell a car, make memories, get married, get a promotion, get fired, go into debt, have children, and die, it is entered into the machine. If you've ever wondered what the company's want your data craze is about, it's this. They're putting it into their life pod. To start the game, you will pick a career path that features promotions that you can earn throughout the game to increase your salary. Some of them requiring you to get a degree before they unlock, and some of them requiring you to get a lucky break to get the chance. The pod keeps track of how many turns are left in the game and automatically adds your salary at the start of every turn. Depending on which section you choose, you can either earn money and opportunities or go straight for the life points by having fun and growing your family. For instance, getting a house will accumulate passive life points every turn, but if you cannot afford it, then you will need to go into debt to purchase it. And this isn't the standard game of life debt. This debt carries interest that will automatically be deducted from your salary every turn. So you better not go screwing around out here, or you could accidentally debt slave yourself. Eat your heart out, extreme reality. There are so many small mechanics in here too that help to deepen the game further. Action cards that confer different effects depending on which section you're in, a lottery system that can benefit you or another lucky player, RNG-based birth effects, and a player piece that can be customized based on what kind of car you have purchased. I'm gonna be honest, they killed this. This whole ordeal right here is why all those board game companies kept trying to shoehorn in those electronic consoles like in Monopoly City. Because this adds so much stuff to the game without making it that much more complicated for the players. Be honest, would you want to deal with the interest-laden debt mechanic if every turn you were the one that had to calculate it? If your answer to that is yes, then I highly recommend checking out Veilfisk's realistic game of life, featuring student loans that carry a 6.8% APR. There is just so much more here on offer without it all dragging the game down due to the added complexity. Just pick your path, hit spin, consult the card, and next turn. Clean, concise, cozy, cover girl. Okay, we've got like 16 more revamps to go through, and I really want to get to the extra stupid crowd, so we'll be hitting a rapid fire round. 3, 2, 1... Run it! The Game of Life Indiana Jones, a Target exclusive release that sees you try to collect the 3 treasures from the first 3 movies and return them to the museum. The life tiles now hold the names of various artifacts, and the game spinner uses Dr. Jones's hat. The Game of Life Adventures Edition features multiple islands that you can visit that might be better suited for your specific career. Also has events that cause you to rotate the spinner in the middle, which will change the effects of various spaces on each of the islands. This marks the second board game we've covered to succeed in rotating objects beneath the board before Clue. The Game of Life Yokai Watch. Move around the city to find yokai and be the first to return home with 3 captured specimens. Comes equipped with 2 exclusive yokai medals that you are forbidden from using in the game. The Game of Life Inside Out. Journey through Riley's brain as her emotions and try to end up with the most memory points. This one works more like an extraction shooter where you leave the safety of headquarters to attempt to gain memories and then bring those back to trade them in for points, and I cannot believe that was my best comparison point. The Game of Life Quarter Life Crisis. Move around the board, jumping from rental property to rental property while picking up odd jobs in a desperate attempt to claw your way out of $500,000 worth of Red Baron pizza debt. I have already done a full video on this one, because any game that dares you to smell another player's foot is not getting away with just a mention. The Game of Life Super Mario Edition, a version where you attempt to win minigames, earn coins, and buy stars in order to become powerful enough to defeat Bowser. This is the second time that they have made a Mario Party board game and called it something else entirely. The Game of Life Jurassic Park. Race around Isla Neblar while evading dinosaurs to collect dinosaur eggs and rescue park rangers before a hurricane hits and destroys everything. You get points for every egg and ranger rescued, but if you do not get off the island in 15 turns, then you will become trapped there, lose the game, and die. 4 different Game of Life card and dice travel games that are based off of the original, the Hasbro Express line, Adventures, and the wholly original Goals, which is a Game of Life game in branding only. The Game of Life Rivals. Move around the board playing action cards from your hand in order to make your life score better and your opponent's life score worse. Notable because you cannot play not-so-good cards on your opponent, you need to trick them into stealing them from you so that they get stuck with them old maid style. Also brings back the pets. The Game of Life Despicable Me. Try to collect 5 bunches of bananas from all around Gru's lab. Here, you not only determine how far you move with the spinner, but you also determine which direction you move by spinning your little minion on the junction circle. This can make the game incredibly frustrating. The Game of Life Giant Edition. Spin the big spinner to see what column you get to draw from, and try to get the best combination of pet, career, family, vacation, and dream home to score the most points. The game does not end until everyone completes a set, and you can exchange cards from your hand with better ones on the board, incentivizing you to take as absolutely long as possible so you do not leave any points on the board. And finally, the Game of Life Empire. Move around the board in order to fill your hot list by acquiring some of the world's top brands, including Burger King, Universal Parks and Resorts, The Transformers, Polaroid, Puma, Guitar Hero Live, Yahoo, and Skype. Golly, with a portfolio like that, I can't lose. Okay, so I get Monopoly Empire. You purchase the world's top brands to increase the value of your company. That makes sense. It's Monopoly. This does not track at all. I think you might have better odds in your lifetime of actually discovering uranium than buying Nickelodeon. I do gotta hand it to them for one thing though, the phenomenal playing pieces. Because I do not think anywhere else are you gonna get the chance to play as a branded cat excavator, NASA rocket ship, Nickelodeon blimp, or Virgin Airlines. There we go. And there's your boarding pass. But what about the real weirdos? The Game of Life games that you look at and just go, huh? What about the ones like Target, the Game of Life? You suck! Target, the Game of Life is the worst Game of Life game. The theming is dumb, the rules speak counterintuitive to the gameplay, it is not the Game of Life in any way, and worst of all, it's just gosh dang boring. It didn't even have the decency to be fun bad. I'm just out here, shopping at Target. I've already rambled on about this one for 25 minutes as well, but I still cannot get over how in the game you are meant to save the most money while still getting your needed items. And yet the rules constantly state that the impulse buys are too good to resist, or things you didn't know you needed. Until now. These are purely detrimental items to your goal, but the rules cannot say this because they can't give any negative association to spending money at Target. Remember kids, any purchase is a good purchase. The game really isn't that bad from a build perspective. It's got interesting mechanics, it's got good balance, it's got the structure of a good game. They just forgot to add any and all enjoyment. Oh, come on now. We don't need that. We got Target! I'll direct you to the solo video if you're looking for that in-depth coverage, but the gist here is that this is a Target shopping board game that they slapped the Game of Life logo on to help sales, and it might also be a corporate psyop to get more people to go and work at Target. It is my brother's all-time least favorite board game, and I think you'd actually have more fun just shopping at the store. That was their plan from the beginning. You sly dog. I think I might have actually made someone at Target really mad with that video because I tried applying for the Target Circle red card like the game told me to, and they turned me down because of location? Yeah, in your head, rent-free. Keeping on with our phenomenal ideas, we have the Game of Life Zapped Edition. The Game of Life Zapped is a wholly original Game of Life board that works directly with the iPad app of the same name. Only available for iPad, mind you. It does not work with literally anything else. In the app, you will design your peg, pick college or career, and head off. Depending on where you land, you could be treated to a variety of different events. You could get a standard text effect, you could get a minigame in the app, or you could be treated to an on-screen display of something crazy happening thanks to a partnership with America's Funniest Home Videos. Cool! The app also has animations for various life events, it keeps track of where you are in your life to play relevant AFV clips, your peg's appearance can change throughout the game based on various career or life decisions you make. All in all, this adds a lot to the game that you really couldn't get without the app was taken down. It was only compatible with a certain group of iPads anyway. The game straight up doesn't work anymore. You know, at least with games like TNT, one, they actually come with the device needed to play, so you don't need to buy a $200 iPad separate. And two, with that being the case, the company can't just one day go, okay, that's enough, you don't get to play anymore. Sorry. Real talk, has there been a board game that has benefited from an application add-on that you can still play today? There must be at least one, because otherwise they wouldn't keep trying these and then shutting them down 2 years later. This game is now absolutely worthless. You cannot play it without the app. About 80% of the game relied on the app. What's even better is that they made Monopoly and Battleship Zapped versions too, each of them trying some really cool stuff with it, all of them completely broken. I do like the Battleship one though, because Hasbro based it off of their stupid Alien movie, which I find very funny. But why stop the electronic add-ons there when we could be enjoying the game of life, electronic banking? This title is just a standard version of the 2013 Game of Life. Oh, great start! Except all of the money in the game has been replaced by the electronic banking unit and the credit cards. You play this game the same as you would normal, except now anytime you gain or lose money, you insert your card and use the console to add or subtract it from your balance. The console can also keep track of your payday, where after setting your salary, each time you pass one, you just hit the green button and it adds it to your balance. Pretty cool idea, kind of a simpler version of the TNT Life Pod. Quick question though, does this actually make the game any easier? Let's go through a simple effect. Uh-oh, looks like you have to pay another player $15,000. Nuts! Well, that's a pretty simple process. All you need to do is insert your credit card, wait for your balance to appear, subtract $15,000 from your account, remove your credit card and insert the other player's card, wait for their balance to appear, and then add $15,000 to their account. Quick and painless. Compare that to what you'd have to do with something like this in the original. Wow, I'm glad I didn't have to go through all of that. This is just like the Game of Life Empire. Monopoly electronic banking, I can understand. The bills range from 500 to 1, the rents can often be in awkward amounts, auctions can also put the value in a weird spot. There's likely going to be multiple points of dealing with weird change. In the Game of Life though, pretty much every charge is going to be in some form of thousand, most of them in multiples of 5. Making weird change here is more of a sporadic inconvenience than the constant early game annoyance that it is in Monopoly. Plus, this doesn't add any super cool new features like the Life Pod did. The only exception being that it also adds interest on any debts you have every payday. But in TNT, debt was an option you could take on to get life points added early with like a house or something. This is just the normal Game of Life where debt is a 2-turn inconvenience at most every 4 games. So you won't be seeing this very often. This whole thing is just unnecessary. It doesn't make the game easier, faster, or better, it's just new. And it's stuck on the worst version of the game on top of that because this one kept that stupid action card turn-in mechanic. Confound you, Hasbro! Our last one on offer I have selected not because it is the worst, we have already crowned a champion there. I have picked this one because of how I am just thoroughly intrigued by it as a concept. The Game of Life Generations. Strap yourselves in, folks. This one's about to get kooky. The Game of Life Generation sees you competing against other family or friends that occupy different generational groups. one each from the greatest Boomer, Gen X, Millennial, and Gen Z factions. I imagine this game was made by millennials because despite half of Gen Z being in their early to mid-20s when this game came out, we're depicted as children in this one. Gen Alpha, meanwhile, would have been the perfect age range for this at the time, and they are completely absent. We are 3 sentences in and I've already been rage baited. I've gotta respect that. This is mostly just a normal game of life game. Move around the board, things happen to you, try to end up with the most money, yeehaw. But what is interesting about this one is that each generation comes with their own unique benefits and negatives that have a serious impact on how well they do in the game. This means that what we have on our hands here is the only game of life game that includes a generational tier list. So we're gonna finally be settling this once and for all. Which generation is best equipped to win the game of life? This will be a look into each generation's unique powers, decks, and life paths to see who will have the best shot of winning any given game. And by the end, we should be able to determine which generation is the absolute best once and for all. No takesies backsies. We'll also be able to figure out who is the worst generation of the bunch, with a brief period to laugh at them to add insult to injury. Each generation gets a unique boost on every stop space and also procs their unique power whenever they land on a generation space. So let's take a look at those gen spaces now. These only proc when you land on them and give you a specific boost based on your power. So making the most out of your limited opportunities is definitely key to a good start. Which is what the greatest generation does with have a baby every time you land here. Since this can happen way before you hit the marriage stop space, this is the first game of life game to feature out-of-wedlock children. With how much the kids are worth at the end of the game, this is just earn 100 grand every time you land here. It is an absurd amount of money and it gives them a huge advantage. Gen Z has something similar where they gain 50k in cash that they can use right now, but everybody else just draws a card from their unique deck. Boomers get coupon cards, which increases or decreases a one-time earning or expense. Millennials get a side hustle card, which they can use to steal money from other players. And Gen X gets a pay bump card that permanently increases their salary even if they change jobs. Rankings look like this because the pay bumps will eventually outclass Gen Z's one-time payment, but will struggle to keep up with the having kids level. And the millennials will take a slight edge at the bottom since their one-time effect will also take money from another player instead of just having you earn slightly more once. As for the stop spaces, the first one sees everyone just go out and pick their career, except for Gen Z. Real Gen Z instead draws a life opportunity card, their unique career deck. While their life opportunity card is face down, every time they pass a payday, all other players must pay them $10,000. And then the bank comes in and fills in the rest of the salary until they're up to 60k. This allows you to not only gain money, but cause all of the other players to lose money. Meaning that in a full 5-player game, a payday is a $100,000 swing. Plus, if you land on a payday, you get to flip that card over and get your real career. So even starting off like this, you still have the opportunity to get a big salary. Gen Z's gonna take the top spot in this round for being the only one to have a unique power. Yeah, I kinda just got handed that one. I'll take it. Stop 2. This is where we really start to get interesting. Millennials and Gen X are going to take the bottom here because they just draw from their unique decks, and Gen Z takes third as this spin can net them anywhere from $50,000 to $200,000. The greatest and boomers have the same effect, hitting up that whole marriage thing, so they'll head up to the top with a space that nets them a cool $300,000 to $500,000. Stop 3 has one of the generations get absolutely annihilated, so we'll be going top to bottom here. Gen X takes the top spot this time around by finally getting that marriage bonus that the last 2 got. Or they could take a gamble and go for a salary bump. The marriage is a cool 6-figure bonus though, so I imagine you'd probably stick with that. Millennials come in at second as they get to run with a 130 grand boost guaranteed, but they could also decide to throw by taking a card from their craptastic deck. Gen Z gives you a choice of either gambling for more cash, accurate, or flipping your life opportunity card and getting a real job, accurate. This could be a good play, as it could result in you making more direct money over time, but you would lose out on taking money from other players as well, so you could screw yourself over if you drew a low-paying job. If you did flip over a bad job from a payday space earlier though, this is your chance to quit that nonsense and get another life opportunity card. The greatest generation simply has the option to change their career or keep going, no negatives here, just an option if they want it. But the boomers are getting divorced. Their special action here is that they can either pay 100 grand to keep the peg they just got from the last one, or remove it from their car entirely and completely negate their last power. This is a purely negative effect. Awful. Just awful. This game was definitely made by millennials. And at the halfway point of the game, here's how we stack up. The greatest generation is of course living up to their namesake, while Gen Z and Gen X could honestly be interchangeable here depending on how you prefer to play. Millennials are falling a bit behind them, but way in last are the boomers. The gap between 4th and 5th right now is basically a canyon. They are struggling. Stop 4 comes to an interesting fork in the road, where going purple allows you to enter the family area, and going yellow is a terrible idea. Under no circumstances should you be going down the yellow path, because the family area is guaranteed to make you either a little or a lot of money from family, friends, and pets. So this one is pretty much whoever has the best purple effect is going to take the round. The greatest generation is unfortunately going to slot in at the bottom here, as they just enter the area with no bonuses. Their coasting off of the strong start is really starting to catch up with them. The millennials are once again near the bottom, as they just get to add a friend worth 50k. Gen X earns a pet worth 50k, but also gets to add an orange peg if they didn't get married earlier. And Gen Z is going to take another top spot by finally getting married and copping that 6-figure bonus for themselves. The boomers are the last ones to stop here, and they are just really confusing. Your power here depends on what you did when you got threatened with that divorce, so we're gonna have to look at both options. If you didn't pay the marital hostage tax and let your wife become a free agent, then you are able to add a new one to get that 100k back. Which technically isn't a bonus at all, you are just returning to where you were at the second stop space. However, if you did give in to their demands and paid the stay married fee, then you get to spin a family spinner to collect somewhere between $50,000 and $300,000. The boomers seem to be completely reliant on gambling to make their money. My guys are in the casino each and every day hitting the slots here. It's like their second job. I think this will put them at second for this checkpoint. A higher ceiling, sure, but also a lower floor, and they aren't taking money from the other players like Gen Z is. Stop space 5 is the only missable stop space, as you can only hit this one if you went down the family path. Yet another reason to never go down the other one. This one carries the largest bonuses in the entire game for most of the cast, but there is one outlier here that just couldn't keep up with the pack: the millennials. I'm gonna be honest, looking at their card here, it is getting pretty sad. The millennials finally decide to get in on some of this hot marriage action by marrying their BFF. And the reward they get for waiting so long to commit is adding a purple peg that is worth half as much as an orange one and getting an embarrassingly small gift compared to the other players. So a millennial marriage can earn that player somewhere between $170,000 and $250,000, when every other player's marriage was in the range of $300,000 to $500,000. This is straight up awful. Being a millennial means that you are getting everything that everyone else got, not only later, but worse. As if that wasn't bad enough, I've also just noticed that they misspelled millennial on the card itself. They got it right on the box. What happened? Despite this being the worst marriage effect by far, Gen Z does fare slightly worse when it comes to the space itself, as they get one wheel spin that will net them somewhere between $200,000 and $0. We're trying to reclaim our #1 gambler title back from the boomers, and I'm gonna be honest, I don't think we've got what it takes. Gen X and the greatest are going to tie at the top here as they get the opportunity to rake in anywhere from 200 to 400k through childbirth, and once again, the boomers have decided to put it all on red. This is where they finally get to spin for gifts from that second marriage of theirs. And since they already added that peg back at stop 4, they've decided to make things interesting by potentially decimating everyone's bank account. Spin the spinner and see what you get. Got an odd? Collect $40,000. Get an even? Collect $600,000. This is your game. Your entire game is right here. Nothing you've done up to this point matters anymore. Everything is riding on one spin. You either get last or steal first. There is no in between anymore. They've got the balls to risk everything on a 50-50 shot? Boomers, #1 gamblers. They've got that locked up. For how this ranks in the general scheme of stop 5, I guess I'll put it in the middle here with an asterisk. Either the best or the worst. It's gotta go in the middle. Stop 6 is the final one, but all it does is give you the option to take risky road or stay safe, with no one getting unique bonuses from either choice. So that means it is time to tally the final results. Who is the best and the worst generation? We'll be going in order from first to worst in this one because, let's be honest with ourselves, you're less focused on winning and more just hoping that the one that you hate gets last. Taking the title of the greatest generation, we have, of course, Generation X? Yeah, believe it or not, by just keeping their head down, working hard, and not getting into any major trouble, Gen X puts themselves in a great position to win pretty much every game. It's not a flashy playstyle, and it requires some patience before things get off the ground, but hey, consistency is key, and they've got that in spades. Coming up in second is the actual greatest generation. This one is the most normal way to play the game. You kind of just get off to a fantastic start, and then coast from there as you build up your wealth and family. Again, nothing fancy, nothing flashy, and no gimmicks, just good, hard-nosed, consistent play. Gen Z takes the final podium spot as, while being massively focused on gimmicks, they are more often than not gimmicks with good benefits. They don't miss out on any of the big life events, and if they do get a bad career to start, then they have a lifeline at the third stop point to help save them. It's just that they don't have as high of a ceiling unless they can get pretty lucky with their spins. Speaking of spins, our #1 gamblers are going to come in at number 4. As, believe it or not, constantly handicapping yourself and then throwing it all on red is not a viable method for consistent success. Yeah, that's what those squares in Gen X want you to think. All in! The thing is, they are so held back by their own stop space nonsense that by the time they get to the big gamble, they'll be woefully behind. Spinning even is going to put you ahead of the pack, yeah, but that doesn't mean that you'll be able to hold the lead. Meanwhile, spinning odd here does guarantee that you lose. There is no recovering from this. Play stupid games, win stupid prizes, but sometimes that prize is first place. And unfortunately, bringing up the rear, we have none other than our poor millennials. An underpowered unique deck, missing out on life events, having worse versions of those events when they do happen. There is just nothing on offer here. I do feel bad because they kind of just shambled over here and died without any fanfare. The boomers at least went out with a bang. This is just depressing. I extend to the millennial audience out there the most heartfelt of sympathies. But at the same time, I am contractually obligated to say, everybody point and laugh. Hang on a second. Hating on both millennials and boomers while constantly pitting them against each other? This was a Gen X project, wasn't it? You sly dogs, the oldest trick in your book. Overall, one of the cooler ideas behind a Game of Life title and a great way to include unique powers into a Game of Life game. With my only major negative here being that the spinner is absolutely terrible. Peep for a second a real spinner's spin. Awesome. Inspiring. Now let's take a look at this joker. Devastating. Heartbreaking. An affront to God himself. Easily the worst thing here is that it removed the critical teeth from the wheel portion, which in addition to helping make that iconic sound, also made it really easy to determine what number it landed on. With this one, you'll need to cross-reference this white line here with the section indicators in the middle to even figure out which number it's on. And if it falls anywhere in between them, you kinda just have to guess or spin it again. There's a lot of eyeballing going on with this one, and I don't know about you, but I'd rather not have my shoddy eyesight being the determining factor when $560,000 are on the line. This also just doesn't feel good to spin either, especially when you twist it a little too hard and it... My guy. Incredible start leading to a wholly unexpected cell phone. Turns out it was a boomer all along. And that will be it for the worst and weirdest of the game of life. I know I didn't hit the video games because I'm saving those for a different project, but in the meantime, which life did you love, which life did you hate, and which life caught you the most off guard? We are now at over 150 years of life shenanigans, and I think there is one lesson that can be learned from looking at the full grouping altogether. Do good deeds, hoard your wealth, and spam kids, and you, sir, are winning the game. Signing off for the Game of Psych, I am KamSandwich. Thank you for watching, and have a fantastic day. A special thank you to my suppliers, staff, and chefs over at the deli, as well as the media preservers helping me get these rare games ported for the public to enjoy. If you'd like to join the crew, you can take a look using the link in the description below.